Hi, good morning to everyone for joining the OpenRoads Designer Workshop. So yeah, today the session will be run by our manager for our civil product, Mei-Len Yi. So yeah, I hope you have your OpenRoads Designer installed and the dataset downloaded. So this session will be recorded. And let's say if you have joined as a anonymous participant, you may not get the recording. So I would appreciate if you can email to me so that after the session, once the recording is ready, then I can send you the link to view the recording. So yeah, that is all from me. So I think without further delay, probably Mei-Len, you can start with the session.
Okay, good morning. Thank you, Casey. Good morning, everyone. So today would be more like a test run for using OpenRoads Designer. And we do hope, as Casey has mentioned, that you have installed OpenRoads Designer. And we also sent out a link to download the dataset. So we do hope that you have that at hand, okay, so that you can get to really experience, okay, how OpenRoads Designer is used, because this would be 2.5 to 3 hour session. So it's really a hands-on uh, workshop for you to really get to know and feel how OpenRoads is used to create a simple model of an interchange with a bridge integration, and then more like this agenda that I have here. Okay, so I will introduce OpenRoads Designer, and for those who have actually joined some of our webinar sessions, so we do hope you get you already know quite a little or even a lot about OpenRoads Designer in terms of its capabilities. Okay, so we're not gonna go through really a presentation of slides and all, but we will go and dive to the software itself. So, and then the intention is maybe you're using other softwares, okay, other civil design software. So we'll explore how you can integrate them or use them, okay, inside OpenRoads Designer. Like for instance, your terrain or surfaces, your alignments, okay. How do you migrate them, okay, in order for you to really get the feel of using the corridor modeling tool of OpenRoads Designer. And then you'll also get to know how you can apply design standards, in this case, road design standards, and how you can more or less a workflow on how you can integrate other discipline models inside OpenRoads Designer. And then a really good hands-on hands-on exercise on how you can produce drawing productions, and then how you can experience and create a visualization out of OpenRoads Designer, and then a little teaser, okay, on how you can leverage on the free LumenRT Designer that comes together with your OpenRoads install. Okay, now let me go through really quick, maybe 5-10 minutes introduction. Okay, so as as you know before, okay, or for those who are new or just attended this kind of session, OpenRoads Designer is actually Bentley's main civil design solution for roadway design. Okay, but not only roadway, it can also do site design, basically because it has Open Site Designer inside. And the engine or the CAD engine it has is MicroStation. So all those CAD workflows that you have, um, creating sheets, laying out simple lines, polylines, 2D or 3D, you can do that because, or you can do the basic ones because you have MicroStation. But in relation to civil design, okay, creating surfaces from survey data, be it your, what do you call this, be it your native or the conventional survey data that you have coming from survey instrument, you can utilize that. But you can also utilize point cloud data, um, reality meshes, okay, because we have Descartes also installed together with OpenRoads Designer. And then designing or laying out drainage and utilities, you can do so because we've added those tools for you to not only lay out the storm and water drainage or network, okay, you can also do hydraulic or hydrology calculation because it has StormCAD, and then integrate GINT or geotechnical data by using the GINT civil tools. And of course, as I mentioned, survey functionalities. So all these, you don't need to go out of the software because all of them are intact inside the solution. Okay. And as I mentioned, everything, survey, terrain modeling, geometry creation, or alignment, if you're more familiar with the other software's terminologies. And corridor modeling is the, more or less, I always say this, the heart and soul of the software. And you can derive a dynamic cross-section basically because everything are dynamic, everything are ruled and related to every objects that you create. And we have this new technology called civil cells that allows you to create corridor models fast because you have like a library of the most commonly used transportation facilities like interchange or intersections, roundabouts, T-junctions, and so on. So it can be saved as a civil cell. And as I said, we have the visualization tool. And it has site design tools. You can lay out parking lots, building pads, driveways, create parcels or create or subdivide your lots into parcels if you're doing land or site development type of projects. And of course, optimize your grading by using the grading solver. And as I mentioned, integrate the geotechnical data. Okay, there. Now, as I said, I do hope that you had the software installed, guys, because this time on we are now going to launch the software. Okay, but before that, I do hope you have the data set I shared. Okay, data set folder name is ORD test run 02. And then it has some subfolders inside. If you are if you have already downloaded the data set, I have quite a few folders inside. I will mention or tell you which folders to open as we move on with the hands-on. Okay, so let's start launching our software. OpenRoads Designer. So the installer that we have sent to you is basically the latest version of OpenRoads Designer. The version name is actually release 22. 2020 release 3. Okay, it also is known as version 9. Okay, so once you have fired up OpenRoads, okay, which I do hope you have already turned on, I'll give you maybe 3 or 1 minute, okay, 1 to 2 minutes to have the software fired up as well as your uh, data set. Okay, I'm not too sure if you are able to send in. Can they send in questions, Casey? Is it possible? Oh no.
Yes, if you guys have any questions, just on the top left that you see there's a question mark icon. You can click there and drop your questions there.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Great, great. Okay, so okay, I see it as well. There's a live event Q&A.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's
Yep.
one, right? Okay, okay. Yeah, great. So just feel free to ask if, and then let me know as well if it's I mean if I'm discussing it very fast or something. Okay, but I would make it sure that I'll not make a very fast,
Yep.
or I'll
I'll
not
try from you.
slow it down.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So okay. So you have your OpenRoads Designer open. So for this exercise, although we have quite, in my case, okay, probably if you just installed OpenRoads Designer, this is called the workspace. This part is called the work, okay, and then the other one is for the work set. For those who have new install, maybe you are only seeing imperial, metric, and then we have this, which we will use for the training or for this workshop, training and examples. So just make sure this is pointing to training and examples, and the work set, okay, is pointing to integrated highway lifecycle. So there. Now, just okay, so once you have this, okay, so I want you guys to start creating an empty file. And by the way, the file of OpenRoads Designer is TGN. So it's similar to MicroStation file format. Okay, so I want you guys to click New File. Okay, and then once you click New File, you will see this. Okay, now since you have selected training and examples as the workspace, so in some of your softwares, okay, civil design or even CAD softwares, every time you start a new session or a new project, you're always probably referring to or would use a template file. Okay. Now in OpenRoads, since the platform is MicroStation, we actually use similar. Okay, but we call it seed file, SEED, seed file. And you have to make sure you're using the right seed file. So to use the right seed file, I want you guys to click the browse button. Okay, I read a message to go slow a bit. Okay, okay, I will. Okay, so I hope you have the workspace, work set. Okay, then after that, I click the new file, right? New file. And then this window will open up. Okay, so this actually would let you choose a seed file. Okay, and you might refer to it as a template. Okay, so click on the browse button. Okay, so once you click the browse button, this will immediately go to a folder. You don't have to change the folder location because of the training and examples workspace. This automatically goes to this folder. Okay, so don't change that. And our intention is basically maybe start our project. Okay, we started by creating an empty DGN file that would allow us to create surface. Okay, to create a surface file or a surface design file. So kindly select seed 3D IHL. I want you guys to select this one. Okay, so this will be our seed file. So all the CAD standards, levels, we call levels as layers, or we call layers as levels. So that's how we refer to them. And then all the annotation styles, how your objects would look like in terms of its CAD context, including the coordinate systems, okay, will be saved or are saved in this seed file. So that's why you have to make sure you use the seed 3D IHL. Now, why the 3D, not the 2D? So the 3D seed file is meant for you to use when you're starting to create a terrain file. Later on, when you create alignments or even corridor files, you will refer or use a 2D seed file, which is this one. So for now, use seed 3D IHL. Okay, so let me click open. Okay, let me click open. And now it's up to you if you would like to save it in the same folder as in the workspace, which is now projected here on top. This is basically pointing to this location because of the workspace, training and examples. Okay, but if you would, because this one, sometimes you are not allowed to open this based on your IT restrictions, right? So that's why sometimes probably you, like in this case, in our training, in our workshop, let's just save it in my case, I'll just save it in my, oh, sorry, in my data set folder where I save this data set I sent to you. So in my case, I will save it. So this is not the same as yours, huh? So yeah, I just like to clarify that I am saving it in my own workspace folder. So in this case, I went to the dataset folder. So at this point, we are now similar. Okay. So I will just save it in this folder, the module 1 overview and terrain. Okay. And then I will name this as terrain 3D. So our intention is to make this as our terrain file. So I'll just use the word terrain itself, okay, so that I can or we can refer to this later on when we are doing our alignment. Okay, so are we still okay at this point? So I'm gonna click save. And then this will fire up OpenRoads Designer and let you open the empty file that you just created coming from the 3D seed file. Okay. So any questions so far? So I do hope that part is clear. So we're starting to create an empty file that would be our terrain file.
Mailen,
Okay.
there's a question from a participant.
Yeah.
He's asking, is the seed file used for all projects are the same?
It can be the same, it can be different. Okay, when I say different, because sometimes, okay, the workspace that we used in this training or in this workshop is more like the out-of-the-box workspace once you install OpenRoads Designer. Now, once you are already using OpenRoads Designer in a real project, this workspace can be customized further according to your standards. So this seed file, okay, so this seed file can be the basis of your new seed file. Do you get what I mean? So you can use the existing seed files to further customize based on your design standard or whatever CAD or BIM standards you have. Is that clear? So I do hope it's clear. Okay, and the main thing there is you have to know when to use a 3D seed file or the 2D seed file. Okay? There. So I do hope I made that clear. Okay, so let me just... So my OpenRoads Designer is already open. Okay, so let's get familiar first with the interface. Initially, okay, if I think if you just installed OpenRoads Designer, so the main interface that you would see is basically the ribbons that you see on top, these things, and the main workspace, okay, the main workspace that you would see here, okay, are OpenRoads modeling, OpenRoads drawing production, survey, geotechnical. So switching from one workspace to another would allow you to see different sets of ribbons. Okay, so like for instance, I'm on OpenRoads modeling. So that's why I see terrain, geometry, site. So if you try to switch from one tab to another, it shows you different sets of tools. Okay, if I switch to, let's say, reality modeling, okay, if I switch to reality modeling, if you notice, I get few tabs now, but if I click on, let's say, attach, or sorry, view, home, so different set. Is that clear? So try to maybe switch to drainage and utilities. This time now, the tools that you see is for laying out nodes like manholes or pipes. Okay, so different. So for this exercise, I would like you to just utilize the default workflow, which is OpenRoads modeling. Okay? Okay. Just go back. Okay, now once you have switched to OpenRoads modeling, the important windows that we need when we start our creation of civil objects are Explorer and of course your properties. So I would like you to turn on Explorer. So in my case, I've already have it here on my left, and then properties on my right. Okay, and this you can dock. Okay, you can dock on your left, you can have it floating, it's up to you, but probably by default it's on the left, or both are on the left. So just you're using your normal Windows dragging, okay, drag it on the left and then have it docked here. And if you are not using dual monitor, or you're just using one monitor, right? So maybe you want to pin it and then hide it sometime. And then from there, you will now see this name, okay, the tab or the window name floating on your left or on your right, hidden anytime you don't need it, and then hover over it so that it will expand. Okay, so similar to my properties, I have it on my right screen, and then, oh, sorry, I pin it or dock it on my right, and then pin, and then maybe hide, okay, if I don't need it. Okay. Now, for those who, I saw a question why some people can find the specified workspace, uh, workspace, not workplace. Training and examples. I think this is probably because um, um, when you install it, you don't have the right, what do you call this? You don't have um, right access to your program or installation location. So that's why probably you need help from your IT to make sure the installation is correct. Okay, and you don't need to use any connect or use an email to log into the Connect client, because if you just installed OpenRoads Designer, you are in the trial mode. Okay, you just close the Connect client or that dialog box, and then it will start on the default trial mode, which is 7 days. Okay, 7 days. But if, let's say, for instance, you have installed OpenRoads before in the same machine or any Bentley software, okay, and you have a Connect access already or Connect account already, just be very careful, because there might be a trigger of a license there. Okay. But for now, for those who just freshly installed the OpenRoad software, it should run on trial mode. Okay, it should run on trial mode. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so again, have your Explorer and your properties windows ready, and just to get ourselves familiar with the interface. I think you know this because it's the same as Windows or maybe other softwares that you have. We have ribbon, then you just switch to different tabs in order for you to switch to different tools. Okay, and then focus your attention on these buttons that you see, especially for those who are new in MicroStation interface or OpenRoads. You have this 8 toggles, which basically refers to different views of OpenRoads Designer. So I will ask you to toggle them later on to turn on or launch. Like for instance, if I click 5, so I click 1, by default 1 and then 5, I click. So if you notice, this will open up a new window or a view. Okay, so later when we're doing our maybe 2D, 3D workflow, or want to see the model in different perspective views, so this is where you get to use the views. Okay, so this is important later. So I'll close this, then notice that it's toggled off now. Again, for the person who's asking for the properties, it's in the Home tab. Then you have this one small button here, Properties. Okay, so I do hope you can see. Okay, is that clear? So Properties, click, click, click. Okay. Okay. Now, the scenario now that we want so we're simplifying everything, so we're simplifying everything. So if let's say for instance you're coming from another software and you want to migrate or utilize the existing data that you have already created, okay, that you have already at hand in the, okay, I'll just mention it in Civil 3D, okay, and you want to migrate them or convert them into OpenRoads Designer. So let's say, for instance, the terrain. By the way, we call surface as terrain, okay. So the tool that you would need is basically available here, okay. But let me first reiterate on the seed file, okay, on the seed file that I asked you to use when we created this new file. Okay, I told you that all the standards, all the CAD standards are intact, basically because of that particular seed file that we reference. Okay, now for those who are having difficulty in or did not see the training and examples workspace, and then you created a new file, then your new file won't have these levels, okay? And then probably you won't have, if I may just switch to utilities, okay? And then you see here geographic, and then click coordinate system. So because of the seed file we use, okay, based on this training training data set is actually assigned with the right coordinate system already based on the data set. So incidentally, the data set is in US, okay, and it's automatically applied UTM 84-18 North, okay. So that's the importance of utilizing seed file as well, because you can immediately assign the coordinate system by using the right seed file. Okay? There. So going back to terrain and many others, we just for the essence or for the for maximizing our time, so I will not really discuss everything, but basically it sets all, okay, all CAD and other BIM standards that you have, okay, pertaining to the project that you are doing or having, okay. And you can customize it. You can customize it. You are not limited to the default template or seed file. Okay. So going back to terrain, now in your data set, if you look closely, especially in module one, okay. So this is the file that we created, which is terrain 3D. Okay. And then there's one land XML file there named og.xml. So incidentally, this file came from Civil 3D. Okay, so the land XML is more like an interchange format between civil design software. So not only OpenRoads, not only Civil 3D, it could also be other softwares. 12D if you're doing or using 12D, which most of the time used in Australia, right? So you always export or import land XML in order for you to collaborate from different softwares. So let's try to convert this, okay, inside OpenRoads. Okay, the tool we need, basically, look at the terrain tab. And then I would like you to click on the From File button that you see in the Create panel. So click From File. And then you will now be seeing, let me just, because I'm using a dual monitor, so that's why sometimes my window will pop out in my other screen. So once you click From File, okay, this window will show up. Now, all you need to do is browse and scroll to your dataset folder and make sure it is pointing to module 1. Are we okay? And then look for og.xml. Okay? Okay. So I select, then click done. I'm trying my best to slow down. Okay, I click done. Okay. So once you click done, a new window will come out, okay, which is called the import terrain model. Okay. So incidentally, it also read the coordinate system in our seed file. So, and it actually have the same, okay? So that's why we don't need to really, or if you don't know the source coordinate system, but you know that it was placed in the right northing, easting, okay, and Z or elevation, then you don't have to change the geographical coordinate systems. And in here, in this terrain or import terrain model window, the only thing I want you to change is the feature definition, which is actually how the terrain would look like, or more like your style, okay, once you import it. So in this case, try to click on this button to expand it. Now look for existing boundary, though I have it pointed at that feature definition already. So existing boundary. And don't change for the land XML setting, just set it to source and definition if it's not already set at that. And then by default, import options, import terrain only. Okay. Now we're using a metric data set. That's why just leave it. Okay. That's why this is disabled. And our template or seed file is already set to metric. Okay. So if you're not seeing anything in your feature definition, especially those who did not load the or wasn't able to see the training and examples workspace, you won't be seeing this. Unfortunately, you won't be seeing this feature definitions. Okay, because one of the reasons why we pointed to that particular workspace is it gives us the configurations, standards, okay, settings, be it CAD, be it civil or BIM settings, okay, are all intact in that particular workspace already. Okay, so existing boundary, nothing to change anymore, and then just make sure you click the OG, or it's already clicked anyway. Then import. Okay. I'm gonna click import now. Processing. And it's finished, actually. Now, to be sure that you have imported something, let me just set this aside. And in here, in your view one, you will be seeing sets of buttons or tools. I want you guys to look for fit view. Fit one. This sorry. This one. Oops. Okay. Fit view. Okay, so I want you to click this, and it should zoom in to the terrain that you have imported. Okay, so I will close this now. I will close. Don't click import again, okay? So I'll close. So you should see this. Okay, so basically, this terrain file coming from the land XML, okay, is displayed as terrain, okay, displayed as terrain, but showing only boundaries, okay? Now, you might be asking, does it really contain any civil information, okay? Yes, of course. Okay, so what you need to do, okay, is probably select this, and then turn on your properties. So let me just pin it. Turn on your properties. I've selected the terrain, then I turned on my properties. Okay, scrolling down, you will see features. Feature. This one, feature. remember when you imported the land XML, we assigned it with a feature definition of existing boundary. Now, if you would like to see, I click this button, by the way, I click this button. If you would like to see the terrain showing maybe triangles or contours, or even together, contours and triangles, then choose any. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I would like to see the triangulations. Okay, I click existing triangles. Okay, and then once you have clicked that, your terrain will change to be showing triangles now. Now, how it displays the triangles will be based on the edge method that is set here, okay, which you can change anytime. You can change that, okay, this can be changed. I will just not change it, okay. Now, let me just unpin my window, okay. Now, this is already three-dimensional, as I said initially, basically because of this coming from an XML or land XML file. And then try to just move your mouse without selecting the terrain. You see, there is more or less like a tooltip showing what is the relative slope or even the elevation on that particular point you hover on, okay, over at, and there. Okay, so every information is dynamic. Okay. Apart from that, going or looking at the Explorer, which is basically list down. So the Explorer lists down all the civil objects that you will be creating on the file or maybe on the references that you have. So the default tab is actually OpenRoads model. Okay, so I'm in the Explorer now, OpenRoads model, and you will see terrain 3D. So which is actually the file that we have opened. Expand it by clicking this button. Now notice the list has all the possible, possible civil objects that you can create. Alignments or geometries. Then of course our terrain, the current one that we are working on. So if you expand this by clicking this icon, so you will see the name or the feature definition that we have set our terrain, okay, to. So I click that. So the name of our terrain is OG based on the land XML. And if you further click on this, it will also show you the path from where this land XML came from, okay, which is, in my case, in my E drive. Yours would be different, of course, okay, because your machine is not the same as mine, OG. But of course, the file name should be the same, and so on. And then later, when we move on to creating corridors, alignments, okay, and some of these objects as well, when we assign SuperElevation, then you see these things populated again and again, okay? And then we don't have any reference or xref for now. That's why this is pretty much empty, reference model. So by the way, we call it reference, not xref. Okay, so there. Are we still okay? And since, remember the coordinate systems that we have applied, okay, which is in utilities, then I go geographic and then click on coordinate system, okay. One good or importance or benefit, okay, of assigning or making sure that your project has the right coordinate system is basically because with OpenRoads Designer, you can stream, okay, from Bing Maps. You can stream from your Bing Maps. As long as you have an internet connection and you have the coordinate system assigned, okay, you can enable to see a background map, be it satellite image or raster map, okay, or raster, what do you call this, the vector map coming from Bing. Okay, so how do you enable that? Okay, so in this group of icons here, let me just click. Specifically, the first one, this view attribute. If you expand this, okay, you'll be able to see the presentation style. And then if you scroll down, if you have it assigned with the right coordinate system, or even maybe you had a mistake, you still assign the coordinate system, you will now see the background map enabled. Okay, so currently we have it set to none as default. But if you would like to see maybe and check if your project is in the right location, so you can shift and you can click, expand it so you can see these three other options. Let's try aerial. Okay, let me click aerial. Okay, so once you click aerial, click on the model, then just let the processing or the streaming. It's streaming. It's streaming live from Bing. Okay, Bing Map Web Services. So once you have that turned on, you now be able to see an aerial as a backdrop. Okay, for your project. And then from here, you would now know that more or less you're in the right location, as you can see here. So basically, this is the original interchange that we have. And then in the project, we would be proposing a new ramp somewhere to connect more or less this road here, and then connect it to this main road, another road in here. Okay, is that clear? So basically, it gives you a good tool to check if you're in the right location. So if I turn that back on, and then maybe instead of using aerial, I use street map. Okay, I am now shifting it to street map. And then wait for a while, and then okay. But if, let's say, for instance, yours is not coming in as fast as I'm doing it, it's probably because of your internet connection. Okay. So I'm actually located, or we are actually located in Singapore. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in Southeast Asia, the fastest is Singapore, right? Or the internet speed. So that's why it's coming in quite fast. And I'm using a LAN connection as well. That's why it's fast. So if you're already okay, you verify that the position is correct. So maybe I will disable it back.
Hey, Melon.
Yep.
There's someone asking what other coordinate system is available. Maybe just flash through the.
Okay. We have quite a lot. So if I click coordinate system, right? I click that on, and then this one, details. Oops, sorry, details. And you will see this, sorry, not the details, sorry. This one, the second icon, the library. Okay, the library. If I click that, okay, so currently I'm in the WGS UTM, okay, the generic ones, usually UTM, right? But if you are using, like, for instance, some specific locality or country, like for instance in Asia, since we are in Asia, so I think most of us are Asia anyway. So if you have, let's say, for those in Singapore, usually it's SBY, right? SBY 21. Malaysia, we have quite a lot, quite a number because we have different zones in Malaysia. Then in Philippines, I think we have it in the others list. Okay, just search for PS or PRS something. Okay. Indonesia, we have this. Okay. For those in the Philippines, I have this PRS 92. Incidentally, I help in one project. We have the PRS Zone 5. We have 5 zones, if I can recall. By the way, I'm Filipino. Okay. So there. So I have it already in here set as favorites for those of commonly used. Now, if you are finding it hard to locate your coordinate system, just go to, we have, by the way, projected, which is northing easting. We also have the lat long, okay, lat long type. So if you go search, then type in, be a bit biased, find now, then click, just search, and then this should list down all those related coordinate system based on the keyword that you have input. Okay, so these are all for Philippines and etc. So just have them as, let's say, for instance, I pick this one, then have them as favorites. Now, if you want to look at the properties and see what coordinate or what projection was used, etc. So click that particular coordinate system, then properties, then it will show you this detail. Okay. You cannot edit this because basically it's part of your workspace or your seed file already in place by the configuration. But you can create or add in, just have to make sure you know how to set them correctly. Okay, the datum, the ellipsoid, etc. So I'll not go more details on this, but I do hope that this clarifies that it supports many projections, okay, or coordinate system. And I think probably some are asking how about Google Earth? Yes, you can. So it's either you download an image or a terrain from Google Earth, or publish your project to Google Earth, okay, by using some of these tools here. So we don't have time to really get onto this in details, okay, but basically these are the tools. Okay, are we clear? Okay, now navigation, so that later when we do our corridor model, right? If since we are on 3D, okay, this tool here, which looks like a rotated arrow, okay. So if you see this and you see this rotate view, click on this, and then your crosshair will come out. So this crosshair basically would be the pivot, okay, of your rotation, which you can change anytime you wish. So if, let's say, I want the pivot or the rotation to be in the middle of my interchange here, so I drag it. Use your left mouse, okay, left mouse button. Just drag it, hold and drag. Then once you see this snap, this is actually a snap, okay, a snap icon to indicate that it's intersecting already, okay, in your terrain. So just leave it there, okay, and then do your rotation now. Okay, so we have quite a bit of large terrain here, and it's rendered in triangles. Okay, that's why it's loading. In my case, it's still fast. Okay, there. Okay, so just use this again. Rotate view, navigate Okay, and of course, those usual zoom in, zoom out tools, window. So just to demonstrate, I click window, then create a window area by clicking one corner and then the size of the extent of the zoom in window that you would like, and then zoom. Okay, there. Yeah. Okay, are we clear? Now, if I may just go back to my top view, then probably I'm not gonna edit anything here anymore, but in cases, but we don't have time for that, we could probably go to that in some other sessions, or if you have OpenRoads already in your training, there are many tools here that will allow you to edit this terrain. Okay, edit by using some trimming or cutting the edge of the triangle, adding in some types of survey data or point cloud data, and then merging them in this terrain. So we have those tools. We have those tools. Okay. Now, if your terrain is already final, notice, okay, my cursor, which is the arrow with a small circle, if I select or if I hover my mouse over the edge of my terrain and then left click a little bit and then let it show or let it display the context menu, okay, context menu. The smaller or the shortcut version of the properties is this one, okay? Then the other menu that you would probably need later on is activating the terrain, meaning you are telling the software that you will now use the terrain, so make sure you activate it. Notice once you activate, the icon now changed to this one because it signifies that the terrain is active already. Now, if you want to export them into different format, you have this tool and so on. Okay, now I want you guys to, or let's assume that this triangle is already finished. I want to just change it to show only the existing boundary so that when I reference this later on, the file would be a bit lighter. Okay, the file would be a bit lighter. Okay, and since there's no more edits that is needed, so probably I just need to see the boundary, okay? But you can be sure that you can, or you can reference it when you're creating your alignment, specifically the profile and your corridor, when it targets existing ground, etc. Okay? And if you would look closely, if let's say, for instance, every time you reference this file or open it, okay, you want it to zoom into this area all the time. So in OpenRoads, we have this settings called save settings. Okay, and by the way, if let's say you don't need to worry if let's say, for instance, you're doing some edits already, you did not configure anything in the settings of OpenRoads, the file is saved or auto-save. The file is auto-save. Okay, it's saved by default. So that's why you don't need to change or probably click the save button as you can see here above. Okay. Now the only thing that you need to probably save is the settings that you are tweaking every now and then, like the views, the zoom location, okay? Anything you change in the settings, like probably your levels, okay? So you have to click the save settings, which is this icon, okay? Or if you're not familiar with the icon, you can go back to what we call the backstage by clicking the file tab, and then you will see this sets of tools. The save settings is also here. So I click Save Settings. So this will save every settings that I have tweaked or modified, including the zoom scale, the zoom location, the zoom extent, etc. Okay. Now, before we proceed to geometry, let me go back to the backstage. If I want to check on some settings, okay, maybe I want to verify if it's really metric or using imperial units. So I click Settings and then go to the File Settings, and then you see this Design File Settings. Okay, so currently working units are set to meters. So we're now sure that we have metric as the unit. Okay, and then for the other civil settings, let's say this one, which is specific to OpenRoads civil formatting. Precision of your unit or your numeric numeric settings, okay, or variables whatsoever. Coordinate system, do you want XY format or northing easting format? How many decimal places you need? For ratio later on, when we do ratio settings in any of the commands, specifically maybe your alignment, chainage or station settings, okay? So this is where you modify them. Radius settings, when you're doing your alignment, probably is it going to be arc or chord? For the profile settings later, when you're creating your design profile. So speed settings, is it kth? And so on. Okay, how many decimal places and so on. So these are the settings. Okay, so always if you click anything or change something in here, always click Save Settings apart from clicking. Are we clear? So let me just go back. So I will again click Save Settings to make sure everything I tweak is saved. Okay? Are we clear? Someone is asking if I can repeat the Bing map. It's located here in View Attributes. Then make sure you look at Background Map. Change to Map Type. Turn on either Street Map or Aerial, or maybe Hybrid. Okay? Now, if you're not seeing any result, check on your coordinates. If it has a coordinate system assigned to your file, or maybe your internet connection might be a bit slow, so just give it a time, it will load eventually. Or maybe if your IT has blocked any, Bing services, okay, you cannot actually load it. Okay, so we're done with the terrain. I click on Save Settings. So the next step that we need to understand is before we proceed to creating geometry, then corridor. Okay, since it's already 10:30. Okay, I would just like to explain on the next step, because if you notice when we created the terrain file, okay, but ideally maybe the terrain file was derived from a survey data, okay, and then when we use that survey data to come up with the terrain file, okay, so each of these shapes actually refer to a DGN or a file, okay. So when we proceed to our next step, which is geometry creation, we will not do that geometry creation in the same file, which is the terrain file, right? So what we will do is we will create another file and reference the terrain once we are doing our horizontal as well as our vertical. Okay, so we call this now a federated file management. So to optimize the computing capability, okay, of OpenRoads Designer, we always recommend that you federate your file. Okay, if the word seems a bit, big or something. So just create every object. Okay, it could be that depending on the size of your project, it could probably a best practice to create each maybe major geometries in different DGNs. Then just reference the common terrain file that you have created. Okay. Now, anytime the terrain updates, this guy, the geometry 1 guy, and then the geometry 2 guy, or even the geometry n whatsoever guy is doing, okay, referencing, or they are referencing the terrain file. Anytime the terrain file changes, they would know that it has updated. And all they need to do is just reload the reference. Okay, so we will now reference, or we should be referencing the terrain and not opening them or creating the geometry in the same file. And so on. Later on, when we create our corridor, we will actually reference geometry that is referencing the terrain, and so on. Are we clear? So that's why in the next step, I want you guys to go to the backstage, close this file, Okay, then we went back to the main UI, similar to what we saw when we first launched OpenRoads Designer. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is create again a new file. Okay, so this time our intention is to create an alignment file or a geometry file. So the seed file we will now use if you click browse. So for those who missed the first step, this is the same. Okay, this is the same. Let me just click cancel. So you will see here, we point to training and examples, to the integrated highway lifecycle work set, click the new button, and then initially for terrain, when you click browse, we reference the 3D seed. This time now for geometries as well as corridor, we use seed 2D. Now you may be asking, why 2D? I thought OpenRoads is a 3D software. How come we're using a 2D seed in creating alignment, okay, or corridor? I'll explain that to you later. Okay, I will explain that to you later because it's better in that drawing itself. Okay, so just make sure you reference seed 2D, IHL in this step that we're doing. So once you have that selected, click open. Okay, then again, I'll go back to my dataset folder. Where is my dataset folder? Not this one, this one. Then this time I will save it in module 2 geometry. Then I'll give it a name of, although there's a sample already in there, I will just name it as geometry. Geometry A, so that I will not overwrite the original one. Okay. So I will click save now. Okay, so similar to the previous step when we created the terrain file, this will show an empty or open an empty DGN. Okay, it's an empty DGN. Okay, so let me just go back to the terrain tab. I am still on the same workflow, which is OpenRoads. Okay, the ribbon that we will now use is geometry. So just shift to that. Now, kindly verify your coordinate system again. It's the same. It's the same. So it's also intact in the seed, in the 2D seed. Okay, pretty close. I go back to geometry. Okay, now going back to this, where is it? Remember, we have a terrain file. Now we are in geometry. We will now reference the terrain file. Okay, so how do we do that? Referencing is similar to, probably if you're using the other software, it's similar to XREF. Okay, it's similar to XREF. So what I want you guys to do is in the geometry, the first small panel in here, okay? Oh, sorry. Specifically, this second icon. This second icon is actually the attach tools, okay? Allowing you to attach references, raster files, point clouds, reality mesh, okay? But I want you guys to attach and look for references. So click references. This will open up this window. So probably by default, it will pop out like this in your case. Okay, so currently now we don't have anything. Okay, what I want you to do is click on attach reference, this icon here. And now try to, although there's a terrain 3D already in this folder, but I remember you created yours. Please use whatever you created in the previous exercise, okay? But if you are not too confident, you can just use whatever is in this folder. Okay, but in my case, I'll use my previous one, which is terrain 3D. Okay, so we're XREFing or referencing the previous terrain file you have created. Okay, now to make sure that everything will fall into the right position, okay, XYZ position. So make sure in the attachment method, this one, click, expand it, make sure it's set to coincide. Okay, so all will follow the same coordinate system. Click on this. Okay, so once you click on that, click open. Okay, click open. Then in your reference list, you will now see that file listed here. Now, where is it? Where is it? Kindly fit view. There you are. Okay, so this is it. So anytime you wish to turn on, turn off, you can just click display, select the reference, then click display off, display on. Okay. Now examine your Explorer, go back to your Explorer. So currently this file has nothing inside. Okay. Currently, this has nothing inside. That's why you don't see anything in here. Okay, so only one is referenced. So there. Now, given a scenario that maybe your other software has already created some alignments, right? And you want to migrate them inside OpenRoads Designer, okay? The tool that you would need to convert them in OpenRoads is in the Geometry tab, General Tools. Then you will be seeing, or you should be clicking on Import, Export, expand that. Then you will see Import Geometry. So let's just do first, okay, just to simplify the exercise, although I let you do a creation of the geometry later on from scratch. So import the geometry, click this command here. Okay, then this will open this window again. I want you guys to go to your dataset folder. dataset folder. In my case, geometry. Okay. There is a land XML file again there. So this land XML file was exported from Civil 3D, imported, and what we're doing right now is we are going to import it inside OpenRoads Designer. Are we okay? So select, then I click open. Okay, so once you click open, the import geometry dialog box or pop-up window will come out. Okay, coming from the land XML, if you expand this by clicking this plus icon here and then further, so let me just expand. So the alignment file, okay, or the XML file actually contains all these geometries already. Okay. Now, incidentally, let's say, for instance, this Route 97 extension, it also has vertical profile. Okay, if you expand. So, OpenRoads has detected that it has profile as well. So, we will include that when we import it. So, looking at maybe ramp C, there's also profile. Okay. So let's just tick everything. Let's import everything. Okay. Now, looking at this other settings, you don't need to click this first option. All I want you to do is just make sure assign feature definition is ticked. And then for linear feature, which is basically the horizontal and vertical geometry, kindly make sure it's pointing to geom baseline. So how do we know it's already there? Actually, by default, since we're using the training and examples, it's pointing to this. Else, you have to expand. And then there's a list of alignment feature definitions. Now, for those who are probably asking, what is feature definition? So feature definition is more like your object styles or style settings. How it will look like, okay, when you create them or maybe import them. So similar to, similar to the terrain, it shows you currently now the reference terrain has only the boundary shown. But remember, you can change it to triangles, you can change it to contours, okay, and so on. Okay. So these are feature definition, more like your styles, okay, or style settings in Civil 3D, okay? So we call that feature definition, okay? We tend to complicate our terminologies in Bentley or Virtuosity, but it's just the same, okay? So let us just choose geom baseline, and to make sure that any civil rule coming from the XML is preserved, tick, okay, the create civil rule, and ORD or OpenRoads will also make sure that all the rules as well as relationships created or intact in the XML file will be preserved by ticking this. So let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay. So I will now click import. Import. So once you click import, this will import everything. Okay. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Geometries. So if you have done that successfully, so your model or your file should look like this. Zooming in to this location by using your wheel mouse, okay, you now see, let's say, for instance, this alignment here is actually called Route 97. Okay, it was named as Route 97. So that's why it's showing Route 97. It has a profile and so on. So this curve one is called ramp C. Okay, try to see, okay, once you select one geometry, okay, some dynamic annotation will show up, okay, with some of the handles or manipulators, which maybe you would familiarly term as grips, okay, in the other software. So this is it. So these annotations can be directly modified straight from your interface. Okay. So let's say for instance, oh sorry. Let's say for instance you want to change the radius of the curve. Instead of 300, you want to change this to 350. So just click on the annotation, and then you'll now be allowed to change the numeric value. Okay, so let me just do this quickly. 350, then it was now changed to 350. Okay, let me just go to 300 again. Okay, and if you're seeing this manipulators, okay, you can grab or manually drag on this handles or manipulators to graphically modify, but be very careful when you do this. So make sure you're really allowed to do it. Okay, to graphically edit or modify the geometries. Okay. Now I'll show you later on if you want to further edit them in a tabular manner. So I'll do that later. Okay. But let's first probably, let's say for instance, you have all this, you want an annotation to show up, okay, so that you get a straightforward information as to how the object was created without selecting them, okay. To do that, you have to turn on the annotation, okay. So to turn on the annotation in your tabs, go to Drawing Production tab, and there's this one panel there called Annotations. Okay, click on Annotate Element. Okay, Annotate Element. Okay, if you want to do it one by one, okay, once you load Annotate Element, okay, if you want to do it one by one, you just click on the command. Okay, again, click on the command, Annotate Element, and then click this. Let's say, for instance, I want ramp C. I don't want any other geometries to be annotated. Select by left clicking. And by the way, okay, just for us to learn the conventions of the terminologies in OpenRoads, every time you see reset, you see this word reset, it says there reset to complete. Reset is right click. Right click. So meaning you are now either accepting or rejecting or terminating the command, okay? But that will depend on the command you're doing. Sometimes it's not the same. So when it also always says reset, you do right click. Okay? So I don't have anything to annotate anymore. I will right click now. I will right click. Right click. Then it's annotated. Okay? Now it's showing this size because of our annotation scale. So currently, my annotation scale, if you're still in the Drawing Production tab, my annotation scale is 1:500. So let me just turn that to a bigger one or a bigger annotation scale to make it bigger or appear bigger. Okay? There. And this annotation, by the way, is dynamic. Okay, when you say dynamic, remember the radius is 300, right? If I change the curve to, I'll just exaggerate, please change it to 350. Okay. 350. look at the annotation is 350. Okay, it updated. Okay. So let me just put it back to 300. Oh, sorry. 300. Or you can undo, just undo, Control Z, undo. Okay. There, it went back to 300 again. So just goes to show that our annotations are dynamic as well. Okay, now if you want to annotate them all at the same time, okay, you can now use the element selection. Okay, element selection, and then use this select all tool to select all your geometries. Now it did not select our terrain because it's just reference. Okay, so once you have all the geometry selected, go back to, oops, sorry, go back to element, annotation, annotate element, click, okay? Then it now says data point to annotate selected element. Now, what does data point mean? Remember, reject is right click, data point is left click. Okay, so whenever you see data point, it means that you are now accepting, okay, accepting your selection or maybe the command, okay. So every time you see data point, it's just left click, okay, left click. So let me now left click to accept that, okay, and then this will annotate all the geometries. Okay, so let's just wait. There you go. Everything now are annotated. Okay. Now you may be asking how do we set this annotation styles? So the annotation styles actually comes together with the feature definition. Okay, although it's a bit of a long story to tell, but every feature definition that you assign will affect also what type of annotation the object would have. Okay, so that's why it pays to, for those who will be using OpenRoads Designer after this, hopefully, guys, okay, you will have a training or further exploration on knowing how to set your own feature definitions, which can be now saved or intact in your workspace. Okay, so that every time you just need to select what feature definition you would like and everything would go automatic. Are we clear? Okay, there. Okay. Now, how about the vertical profile or the long section, long profile, longitudinal section or longitudinal profile, something, okay? Where can I see that? Okay, now since this is coming from Civil 3D, LangXML, it already has your design profile or maybe existing profile, depends. Okay, so what I want you to do, this is where the tool views comes in. So I want you guys to zoom into this location, okay, where all these 8 toggles are located. So this is basically your views. Okay, I want you guys to maybe toggle on view number 4. One soft click. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit. So zoom number 4 zoom number 4. View number 4 looks like this. Okay, it still is this one actually. It's if you zoom extend view, I'm using another software. Zoom extend is like your fifth view. So I click this. This is the same. Okay, but we will now utilize this view to show our vertical profile. Okay, to show the vertical profile. So how do we do that? I'll go back to geometry. Okay. Then you can do this two ways. You can do this two ways. It could be done using the menu, the ribbon, by using Open Profile Model. Okay. Then select the geometry. When it says locate plan element, meaning you go to your 2D view, this is actually your 2D view. Select, let's say for instance, I want to see this. So I will select this alignment or geometry. Okay. So once you have already selected that, your prompt now will ask you or tell you select or open view. Okay. Now we have already previously opened view number 4. So what I want you to do is just click inside view number 4, anywhere. So I click, left click, there. So this now will show me the vertical profile, could be design or existing profile of this alignment. Okay, sorry. Let me just turn off that. Okay, now where is my surface? How come it only shows me my profile? So the surface you can see in relative to your profile by activating. Remember the activate terrain. So select your terrain. Select your terrain. Let the context menu pop out. Click the icon. Second icon. Oh, sorry. This will activate your terrain, and in your profile, notice now when you zoom in, you now see the green dash line, which actually refers to our surface or terrain. Okay? Okay? Now, similar to your horizontal geometry, if you select your vertical geometry, it is the same. It has all those dynamic annotations. Okay? Dynamic annotations. You can drag by using the handles or manipulator to edit them, or probably click on the annotations. Okay, click on the annotations so that you can modify them, change the value, and so on. Okay, so like for instance, if I want to maybe change the second curve to 500, I click on the annotation, dynamic annotation. This shape will come out. I'll type using my numeric keypad, or if you're using your laptop, just type in anything, 500, and then this updates. So it will also update the rest that are dependent on this. Are we clear? Okay, same thing. If let's say for instance, I go zoom out a little bit. Up to you, I now leave these things to you. Okay, and by the way, how you see it, okay, is dependent on the view settings or view attributes. So it is actually exaggerated 10 times by default. If you want it to be 1:1, okay, but look closely, it's hard to detect now if you're doing it because it's relatively flat. If I go back and switch this back to 10 or even 20, just I let that settings set by view. Okay, then fit the view again. There you go. Are we okay? Now, this next step, I will not, or it's up to you if you want to do it, but I just want you to see that because what we did was to import it from Civil 3D, right? But what if you're creating it from scratch? If you're creating it from scratch, so let me just probably focus on this area. You can now use these tools. in the horizontal as well as vertical. So let's say, for instance, you're really coming from scratch, you have the X, Y, and even the Z values given to you, northing, easting, table, etc. Okay. Well, what you can do are combinations of this command. So line, if you're creating the tangents, okay, it could be an independent line. If you see this line between points, or maybe line to element, there has to be an existing element to connect it to, or to connect it from, because line from element, or maybe between arcs. Okay, so just get probably yourself familiar with the terminology of how OpenRoads uses the notation of between, to, or from. Okay, same thing with vertical. Okay, but if you would probably creating it by PIs, you have a table already of the coordinates, then probably you just use complex by PI. Okay, but if you're starting from scratch, so let me just show this. You don't need to do this. Okay, you don't need to do this. I'll just show it. Then since it's recorded, you can just probably refer to this next few steps when you're trying out OpenRoads further after this session. So I would just like to show how you do it from scratch. So line between points, then it pays to assign a feature definition. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I click from here to here. If I have some of the parameters given to me, I can now use the distance, direction. So if, let's say, for instance, I want this exactly to be 300, I will input 300, enter, then I fix at 300. If I want it to have, let's say, 100 as the line direction, so I fix to that particular angle, and this is the first line. So if I want another line in here, I click here. So same thing. I have parameter distance of maybe 450. Enter that. I want an angle of, let's say, 85, and so on. So just and sorry, I click 450. Sorry. Then to go to the next option, press the left or right arrow key. So every time you're seeing this left or right arrow key. Okay, so I'm gonna press my left arrow key to change it to line distance. So I now go and change this to maybe 95. Press the enter key or tab key. So 95 is not good. 8. Let me just probably 90. Okay, there. Then I left click to accept. Okay, don't need to do this. I'm just showing it to you. I want to connect this with a curve. I go look for this tool, but this time arc between elements. I'll just simplify it by using simple arc. Then what I need to do if I'm given this kind of scenario, I have to select my first tangent, then my second tangent, and then define a radius. Previously, I used 700, that's why it's set to 700. Okay, but if you would like to change that, so just untick this and then probably change this to 500, which you can do. Okay, you can do that in the tool settings. You can also do that in the prompt, in this dynamic prompt. Okay, so, but either way, you have to left click to confirm, okay, whatever command or numeric parameters you have input. Okay, so if I change this back to maybe 750, I press the enter or the tab key, enter or tab key would do, and then I will accept. And by the way, look, as I hover my mouse up, it goes to that direction. if I hover my cursor down, it goes to that direction. So it depends. Huh? So I will accept by left clicking on this side. Okay. Now the next thing you have to set is the trimming. Okay, the trimming of the geometry. Okay, the trimming of the geometry. Oh, I think I clicked something. Let's just wait because I clicked something on the background. That's why it's loading. Okay. Then what did I do? Okay, just let it load. Okay. There. Now the trimming, meaning because sometimes it will extend, the curve will extend to the first element and then to the second element. So I need to make sure that it's extending or trimming on both of the sides. Okay. But you can also set it, it depends on the scenario. I'm pressing the up or down arrow key now to change the trim or extend settings. So I'll just set it to both. Okay, both. Then I left click to accept. And then it's now connected. Okay, it's now connected. See? Okay, but one last thing, because if you notice this first geometry here, it's all one long geometry, right? Long alignment. The next step you have to do is to connect them to become one alignment, okay, or geometry. So the tool that you would use to connect that is the complex by element. Okay, so I will click complex by element, then select, so making sure that you select really the first element, okay, from where maybe your chainage 00 or the lower chainage or station value, okay, and just be sure that the side that you're selecting, okay, would give you this arrowhead so that it indicates the direction. Okay, because if you select on the other edge, the arrow, notice it's pointing to the opposite direction. So make sure the direction is pointing to that direction you intend for your geometry to connect. Okay, so once the arrowhead indicates the right direction, left click. Okay, and since our setting is set to automatic, it will automatically detect, okay, all the connected geometries. Okay, and notice again, we're using a geom baseline feature definition. So once I accept, you see now the prompt is telling or indicating accept. Okay, so it means left click, left click. So I will accept by left clicking and then we're done. So this is now one geometry. So remember the 750, which I can change anytime I want to, okay? And so on. And by the way, if you see here, looking at selecting this and looking at your properties, it will tell you more or less a story of how the object was created. So remember, before I connect them and convert them into complex geometry, it came from a line, an arc, and another line. Okay, and that's its CAD properties. How about its civil properties? You click line, which is this one, the first one. If you need to change that, okay, then and so on. See there. Okay, so it gives you more or less the story how this object was created. If you switch back to this one, it even apart from the CAD properties, okay, you can change the features or feature definition, rename it. You can change the name because I have not been changing any names and so on. Okay, so is this clear? We're still on track. Quite a lot.
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
end. Yep.
Yeah, take a pause to answer some of the questions.
Okay, no problem. Yep. Well, I haven't been looking. Okay. How the Google Earth map can be applied to the project we're doing, maybe later. Yeah. Okay, I think I've mentioned it a little bit for the Google Earth. You just need to go to utilities and then use synchronize your Google Earth. You have to open Google Earth, the application Google Earth to do this, to synchronize your view. So you have to zoom into Google Earth, and then using this tool would allow you to synchronize it to whatever view you have in your application or OpenRoads. Next, when we imported the OG file, the boundary will be created automatically. Yeah, of course, it will be automatically created, because basically how it was created from the other software, it already has its own triangulation method, right? So once imported in OpenRoads, depending on the feature definition you use, it will set, or it will inherit the boundary, okay? But sometimes, right, if you change the, remember the, if this is just references why it will not allow us to change anything. So you see here the edge method. So the boundary will also be dictated by this setting, So especially the length of the edge method. So if you make it smaller, so it would probably make the boundary really smaller. So that's why it's dynamic. Okay, you can dictate. But basically, if you did not change anything, whatever is the default settings in OpenRoads, that's what it will assign. Okay. But you can modify that boundary anytime you wish. Huh? If, let's say, for instance, you have a CAD line or a shape to dictate the boundary, that's also possible, because we have some tools that will allow you to do that. You see here, there are these options here, that especially this one, boundary options. Okay, you want to set your new terrain boundary, you can use this. Okay. Undo button is here, up here. Okay. Now the undo button, actually, if you see, of course, it will undo every command one at a time. If, let's say, for instance, you've done so many edits, right? You've done so many edits, and you're just exploring the file, maybe you can set an undo to mark. Okay. So just mark your file, so that all the edits that you would do, okay, how do we mark? Let's say, for instance, I'll set this as my mark. So you see this button up here. This is the undo button. This is redo. Then this is mark. Okay. So meaning to say, you're marking your file so that any edits that you would do would undo it to that point. Okay. So let's say I mark this file. So mark already, right? And look here. Look below here. It says here current position mark. So any object I create, let me just create some objects, arbitrary objects, blah blah. Okay, and then I zoom in, zoom out, whatever I do. Okay, but once I click undo to mark, okay, I click this, then I don't just undo one at a time. I undo to a certain point where I would like my file to be preserved. Okay, so if it's one at a time, just click this one, or control the usual one. I think it's control Z, right? Control Z is the undo. Okay, what else? How that table, like, for the table, sorry, I almost forgot. For the table, let's say you want to modify the geometry on a tabular way, which I think is most of the time your preferred way. So just, you see here inside Geometry tab, we have Common Tools. Then we have Table Editor. Okay. click that and then select the geometry you would like. It could be your horizontal, it could be your vertical geometry. So let's say for horizontal first, I click this, then my table will show up. So I can edit here. Okay, you see, if I scroll down, if I select this, this will highlight this line because that's this line. Anytime I wish to change the first radius, so currently it's set to 502, okay, 502, which is this one. If I change that to maybe 510, okay, now the edit is not yet applied. That's why my annotation is not yet applied because we have this tool here. If I click apply, okay, if I click apply, it will now accept the setting or the edits I did and will update the alignment. Okay, oops. Something. Okay, so this is how it's done. This is how it's done. Again, in the table editor. Table editor. Okay. Okay. Then, where are we? Yeah, the 510 is there. Okay, the annotation updated as well. Okay, similarly, if I want to see the report, okay, maybe some of you are asking for the geometry report or alignment report. Click report. And then this will open up the civil browser, report browser, and you have this report. Now, this report can be of any format because we have quite a lot of format in here. Horizontal alignment length, XY, which is the default. Then I have also the curve table, alignment area, control, curve data table, and so on. Okay? And this report you can save as XML, text, okay? I think also CSV. CSV, I think save as. Anyway, and the format options, how many decimal places would you report would or precision settings of your numeric settings, okay, decimal places, percentage, what is the angular notation, and so on. Are we clear? So this is coming from report button in the alignment table editor. But anytime you wish to launch the alignment report, you can just select your alignment or geometry, either horizontal or vertical. Then in the context menu, you see in the context menu, every time you see a paperclip icon, this paperclip icon here, this one, this is actually a report button. So incidentally, we're launching it from alignment. That's why it will show alignment report. Okay, but if let's say you do it from the vertical, so same thing, you will see the paperclip icon again. Let me zoom in a little bit. Paperclip icon again, but this time for vertical alignment report. You see? So on. Are we clear? Some more question? Annotation. Annotation, you can resize them in this drawing production. Remember this, drawing production. Then we have the annotation scale. Drawing scales. We have a predefined scales already in here based on our seed file. Okay, currently mine is 1:1000. Okay. Now, for those asking about annotation styles, it's embedded in your seed as well as the feature definition. Okay, that's why it came in a bit automatic. Okay, but it's part of the settings that is working at the background. Okay. If you want to add transitions between curves, you can either use the table editor or if let's say, for instance, you have forgotten to add in, okay, some transitions or curves when you're creating it, look at the property. Look at your property. Probably, because currently there's no transition, right? Let's see. Can I get back on you on that? Because it's because it's on how I created it. Let me get back to you on that. Who asked that question?
That's
Mr. Tong. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because currently, when you're creating it, actually there are tools that will allow you to add them already. To add them already. This tool, 3-point arc, or 3-center arc, 2-center arc, then some of the geometry tools here. Okay, but if you want it to be added already on the geometry that you have created, wait, let me just progress. Okay, it's because you haven't added a design standard. So thank you for the question, because I forgot to add. So if, let's say, for instance, you have to follow a certain design standard, right? You have to assign a design standard to your geometry. So I go back to standards, then go to the design standards toolbar. Yeah, that's why it's not showing up. That's why it's showing up. So by default, if you have not, or if you're just referencing the default metric, imperial, or maybe the training and examples, the design standard is default to AASHTO. Okay, if you here, this is default to AASHTO and then some UK standards. Okay, so if, let's say, for instance, this geometry here I created, I want to assign it to have to use the AASHTO 4-lane, 6%, then maybe I assign it 100 kph, okay, 100 kph, and then I toggle this on, okay, and then I select the geometry I created, which is this one. Okay, so I'm assigning a design standard to it. So once I select this again, so let me just zoom out a little bit again. Once I select this and I go back to my properties, now let me pin this. Since I have already applied a design standard to here, if I click this, you see here, there's this standard added to it. Okay, I may be seeing some warnings because it's not meeting some, some standards based on that particular standard I have applied. Okay, let's say, for instance, this one, missing transition, okay, between arc and line. So same thing here after the curve, missing transition. So how do we assign? So if I may just go back to, where is that? I'm missing one. I'm missing one property. I'm really missing a property. Let me close this again. And then back on. I Line. I want to see something here. Okay, Tong, can I get back on you on that? Okay, because I missing something in here. I don't know if it's my graphics that's fooling me, because I usually would see a property here that tells me that this is a one. There's no transition. Okay, there's no transition. Okay, that's why I'm missing it. I'm missing it. But when you're creating it, specific, especially if you're using the complex by PI, you see here, if this one, okay, look here, back transition, ahead transition, you can set it to type spiral, curve, arc ratio. Okay, so just input maybe spiral, then input in the length. So if I would set this to 50, and maybe again spiral length of 50, it depends, huh? Then I create my alignment. Maybe I'll just create here, okay, and so on. Now look here, looky. I now have that 50. Okay, so currently now my previous my second one has that transition already, but incidentally it's spiral because I set it to spiral. But if you fail to add in, okay, let me get back to you on the other one because I'm missing on one property here, which but basically when you're creating it, you can just set it using this uh, tool, okay? This tool, okay? Thank you. Any other question? Am I missing any other question? Of course, you can redo. Control R, you can redo. Any method to edit a complex horizontal alignment, if changes in part of the alignment is required instead of rebuilding the alignment. Yeah, you can, as I said, you can use the table editor, right? You can use the table editor, or maybe use if you want to use the usual drop or explode tool to put it back to its original setting, being line, curve, or arc. You have many tools to do the modification. Okay, you have a lot of tools. For your local design standards, is either that you create it already in your workspace or configure it using, because in the design standards, okay, design standards is actually being referenced. If I may just go to OpenRoad standards, then currently, if I click OpenRoad standards, then libraries, this is the importance of having a what do you call this? Having a workspace. Okay, so those design standards are actually intact in your workspace. So if you click this one, design standard, notice, as I've mentioned, you have the ASHTO and then the UK. Okay, this is saved in a DGN-lib, okay, which you can customize. Okay, you do it in the workspace. If you do it on a per file basis, then that would be saved in the file only. So anytime someone would want to use the same standard, then it's not there because it's not part of your workspace. Okay, so it's a best practice that you customize your workspace to reflect that design standard. Now, incidentally, we have a workspace for Singapore already created. And then I think ASHTO is being used in Philippines as well as Indonesia. For Malaysia, we have yet to add it, but we are still in the works, okay, to add a Malaysia workspace. And for ANZ, it's also already created. All you need to do is just every time you're starting, remember to reference the right workspace and work set. Okay, who else? After the design parameter, I appreciate. Is there a method to start existing? We have many tools here that will allow you to basically extract it from some other alignments profile. So we have these tools. Maybe I think those tools like quick profile from element to element. Then we have other tools here. These tools, okay. These other tools. You can get it from another alignments profiles or project it from maybe an edge of pavement when you created already the corridor and so on. Yeah, this can be. I have a question here. Malaysia uses their own design standard. As I mentioned, we are in the works of adding it for Malaysia. So we will be adding it very soon. We are still on the works. Okay, it's still in progress. Okay. There's another question. Can we change the spiral formula from colloid to spiral? Yeah, you go back to the settings, and I think it's file setting. Let me check out if it's this one. Design file settings, curve, spiral settings, colloid. But wait, where is this? Civil formatting, spiral type. Config, user. I think this is showing radius curve, chord, spiral setting, this one. By default, it's colloid, but when you're creating it, remember, wait, spiral, no, not this one. Let me get back to you, Mr. Nurhani, because for now, I think it's because of our our settings. That's why it's set to colloid spiral setting. Okay, but there is actually a way. Let me check. I'll be able to retrieve these questions, right, Casey, later on?
Yes, we can.
Okay. But some questions I'd probably
Yes,
get back to
yes,
us directly.
because
Okay, yeah, it's already 11:30.
yeah.
Okay, so I hope I'll get the other response to the other questions. Okay, but I'm trying my best to answer them all while we're doing this session. Okay, so shall we proceed, or you want guys 5-minute toilet break or something? Or I'll just move on. Shall we give them 5 minutes something? Or
Yes, I think we could. I mean, you need a break as well. So
yeah,
your
I want
5 minute.
to toilet too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
5 minutes only. Yeah. Okay. So let's reconvene. What time? 11:38. So that's 43. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. Okay. Let me just answer this one question, although it's no name is appearing. Does the Singapore standard based on the latest LTA CDC? I think for now it still is the old one. Okay, but then if you, it's still based on the old one, but it should be quick to update it. So if you can send us, because whatever is given to us, that's how we update it. Okay, but if you have a copy or a link to that new 2019 design standards, kindly send it to us. Okay, or yeah, just send us the link or the copy of that one. It would be fast so that we can roll it out in the next release of the OpenRoads Singapore data set. Okay. Okay. So shall we continue? Okay. So let's now proceed to corridor modeling. Corridor modeling. So again, remember this flow chart I've given or I've shown you earlier. From terrain, we have geometry. Then later on, once we create the corridor, we'll create a super elevation as well to assign. And then probably we have a master model where all our drawing production would be placed, or maybe export it to some other formats, so on. Okay, so let's now proceed. Okay. Now let's just create, or let's just use the corridor file, okay, already in module 3, modeling, okay, already in module 3. Specifically the file corridor ramp C, corridor ramp C, this one. Okay, so kindly open that file. Yeah, every time you see this, because the data set we have was actually created from an older version of OpenRoads. So every time you see this, just click yes so that it will be upgraded to the latest schema of the latest release we are using. Okay, so just click yes. This should not be an issue. Okay. Now we already have a terrain, we already have a geometry. Okay, both horizontal and vertical. Okay, so the next step is for us to create the corridor model. Okay, now this file is actually an empty file. Okay, it's actually an empty file referencing, if I may just open the references window again, referencing our terrain, which is this one, then also referencing our geometry file. Okay, current file is corridor Ramsey, which is also being in a way referenced in our 2D, but what do you call this? It's the same file. Okay, now incidentally, we also have a bridge file inside. Okay, but don't mind this for now. Okay, so this is just to reiterate on the federated file management approach of OpenRoads Designer. Okay, we will not put the corridor inside the same geometry file. Same thing that we did not put the geometry in the terrain file. Okay, and before we proceed, we shift now to the corridors tab. Okay, and the most important thing when you're creating corridors is you have to previously set up, okay, or define your templates. Okay, now don't get confused. Okay, don't get confused as to the term, because template is the terminology used by OpenRoads to define, or more like synonymous to assemblies or sub-assemblies that you have in the other software. So let's just look at the samples. Let's just look at the samples that we have here. So template, then open the create template window or interface by clicking the create template tab. Then you will see this create template. Okay, so this one, okay, because of the configuration or the what they call this workspace that we are using, is actually pointing to this default, okay, this default ITL file. Okay, now the template file is the sub-assembly or assemblies, which is saved in a .itl file. Okay, but if you're using workspace settings, this should be loaded automatically for you. You don't need to load it every time. Okay, so like for instance, in our sample here, if you just open this create template window, you will see this as this way. So you have to just double click to expand it. Okay, then you will see templates. Just click on it or double click, and then this one IHL, which is the one we will use for this exercise. Okay, so this now, let's say for instance, the two-lane, I will double click one assembly or one template. Okay, and in our preview, you will see this. Okay, so this is basically how our lanes, our roads, our bridge, okay, our pavements, okay, would basically look like, okay, once you use it in corridor modeling. Now, how it was created is it's actually coming from different components. Probably like, for instance, in here, we have some list of components here, pavement, asphalt type, undivided type, one lane, something. And then they were just referenced one by one to create this template. Okay, this template here. Okay, and how it will cut or fill the ground is signified by this green line that you see on the rightmost and leftmost part of the template. Okay, and you also see there are cross marks colored green or yellow. Okay, these are the template points, which actually can be constrained or unconstrained based on the behavior you would like them to have when you're creating the corridor. Okay. If you click one point here, let's say for instance, one point RT EOPR, if I double click that, a window will come out, point properties, that will tell you the property of this point, the constraints that are available based on its parent point, which is basically its center line. So the names are based on our workspace, but you can customize the names according to your standards. So these are just appearing this way because of our workspace. Then the slope or the crown, the width on the right side, 3.65, blah, blah, okay, and so on. So how these points would behave when you create them will be based on how you, or how, when you use them in your corridor would depend on how you create them, okay? Although this is just a quick test run or case of OpenRoads, we don't have time to really discuss on much of the details here, but I would guarantee that this is easy really to do or create as long as you come to know the behavior or constraining them based on the behavior you would like them to have. Okay, and excuse me, how it cuts and fills the ground will be based on the point behaviors that you would assign to your end condition and so on. So we will refer on some of this templates as we create the corridor. So shall we proceed now? So we have on the left view number 1, the plan view, and then view number 2 is the 3D view. Okay, showing you the terrain as well as the geometry with its corresponding vertical profile. That's why you're seeing it in 3D. Okay, so let's create our corridor. Kindly make sure you activate view number 1. View number 1. You activate it by clicking this blue part of your view. Okay, and then corridors, inside corridor tab, kindly click new. Okay, so every time you click the new corridor command, this will ask you for the baseline. So the baseline refers to the alignment or the geometry. So I will click for this exercise here, for this corridor, we will now create the centermost ramp, excuse me, that will connect this road here to this curve and then to this part. Okay, so I would like you to just select and make sure you are selecting ramp C. Ramp C. Okay, ramp C. So select that, ramp C. Okay, and you're asked now for the profile or vertical profile. It would be easier if you expand in the corridor, in the settings, when you're asked to locate profile element, okay, to expand this and then select this active profile. So you can actually assign as many profile as you would like for every horizontal alignment, but you can activate only one vertical profile at a time. So once it's already pointing to that vertical profile, okay, and the next step is for you to give it a name, and assign a feature definition. So currently, let's just set it to conceptual, okay? So I will accept the name by left clicking, okay? So once you have done that, the, the window or the tool settings will change to create template drop. So this is now the step, okay, from where you can change or you can choose the template, which I showed you previously. So if you click this button, okay, you are now have an option to choose the template you want for this corridor that you're creating. So let's get it from IHL folder. This is a preview only. You cannot modify any of this in this window. So let's choose, what is that? Wait. The corridor ramp. Let me just look at my cheat sheet to make sure it's the right one. Corridor ramp. RT tie. Yeah, I was wrong. I was correct. This one, RT tie. So this looks like this. So once it's highlighted here, just click OK. Okay. The names will appear both in the tool settings as well as your tooltip. Okay. Your dynamic tooltip. And then you left click to accept. Okay. You are now asked for the start and end station where you will apply it. Now let's apply it from the start. So scroll, try to move your mouse, scroll up. This is the beginning. You would know it's the beginning because as you scroll, you see the value of the chainage or the station is 00. So accept that by left clicking. Once you see 00, I will left click. Okay. And then next is to define the end station. Now, our intention is to put a bridge in the middle. So let's terminate the corridor somewhere around station 1000. So type in 1000. Okay? And then press enter to lock that to that value. And you are doing it correctly if your preview looks like this. Okay, so I will accept that by left clicking again, and then just accept or type in 5 meters for the drop interval, meaning the application of the template every 5 meters. Left click to accept, and then the next few prompts, just left click, okay? So once you're done, oh, sorry. Looking at the 2D, you see the corridor now, and then inside, while the command is still active, in the 3D, you see it this way. Now, don't mind if the corridor looks like a bit jagged. So it has something to do with our feature definition, which we will update later on. Okay? So I will just right click to finish this command, or press escape is also okay. There. Now to address on the jaggedness or not a perfect curve for every 5 meters, the way to do that is by selecting, okay, notice here in the 2D view, if you see these lines here, these are just the construction line that allows you to manipulate or make sure you're selecting the right object. Okay, but in 3D, you're not seeing it. So when you import or maybe finish with the corridor, you're not creating it together with this. These are just construction lines that allows you to manipulate your corridor or edit them as you design them. Okay, so if you would like to change the smoothness of the curve, okay, select this perpendicular line. What color is this? Cyan, something. Okay, so select that. Then hover over that particular object until you see the context-sensitive properties. And then change conceptual feature definition to design. Okay, these are just settings again of how your object would look like in your 2D and 3D view. Similar to the feature definition for alignments as well as terrain. Okay, so I'll set it to design. So notice it will reprocess the corridor and then makes it smoother this time. So it will now not just literally take the 5 every 5 meters, but it will have some mathematical thingy going on at the background, converting the curves to smoother curves and so on. So that's why you see now there are more lines in the curve part because of that processing that happened. Okay? Okay? And it looks like this, basically because of the template we use. It aims to target the existing ground. That's why we have a very large or very high end condition, or some would call it daylight if you're using the other software. Okay, so let's finish this off by adding the other corridor on this last part. I go and click new corridor again, command. And then select again the same geometry, which is ramp C. Okay, and then choose the profile again. And then I will immediately set it to design so that I don't need to change it later on. Okay, and then I will probably just rename this as ramp. I forgot to rename the other one, but the other one, ramp C, taking the name of the alignment. So I will just name this as ramp C2. And then, oh, then left click, and it's already set to ramp RT tie, so I don't need to change it anymore. So I'll just accept by left clicking again. As for the start, kindly input 1,500. Enter. So it goes to that. Is it 1,500 or 1,000? It should be 1,500. missed on the 50. Wait, let me unlock. Unlock for 1. Oopsie. 1, 5, 100, 1,550, sorry. Enter. And then it goes to there. Left click. Then just scroll away towards the right to finish it at this end station. So once you see that graphics showing this way up to the end of the alignment, just left click, accept whatever settings by left clicking, and so on and so forth. And I will right click or escape to finish the command. So the second part of my corridor is here. Okay? Okay. Then, since it's already 12, I think I will just skip probably the creation of the corridor here. But the intention is to create another corridor using this template or this template. Sorry, this template. Okay, ramp bridge RT type. Now you may be asking, how come you're using this kind of template, right? Why not look a realistic type of bridge? Now the bridge, we have another software that really creates the bridge model with its span, pier, and all those abutments, piles, and all, which is called OpenBridge Modeler. Okay. Now you can still model it in OpenRoads Designer. Okay. Basically because OpenBridge Modeler will reference the alignment created from OpenRoads Designer. Okay. And also the SuperElevation. The SuperElevation information will be extracted from OpenRoads Designer. Okay, that's why it's also better to model the bridge, okay, and assign a SuperElevation calculation to it using using OpenRoads Designer, okay. But to model that, just to show the span, the deck itself, you can do it in OpenRoads Designer, okay. And actually, if you would look at or this is already finished, okay, but I have a finished version of this. Let me just click Save Settings. Click Save Settings. We have a finished version of this. If you would just open SuperElevation, and then this file, SuperElevation DGN. Okay, I'm opening a new file, SuperElevation DGN coming from Module 4. Open. And just click Yes again if you see this. Okay. Okay. And sorry, wrong file. I meant to use, sorry. Integration, sorry, from module 5, and then because I want you to see as well the bridge created from OpenBridge Modeler. Okay, I want you to see that. Open from module 5, and then corridor ramp C DGN. Open. Sorry, I'm panicking because we have too much to still some topics, but I would want to maximize the time so that everyone gets a good feel of using the software. There, so this is it. This is the file. So we have the previous one, the corridor, and then the second one. Then using the same command, but different template, you see this. Okay, you see this. Only the bridge deck. Okay, but if you would like to reference, because OpenRoads having DGN as a format, if you have a model created from OpenBridge Modeler, you can also reference that. Let's say, for instance, let me just turn on references. Okay, I'll turn off the bridge I created using the corridor modeling tool. So I turn that off. And then I will attach from the same module 5 integration. Then you will see OBM bridge ramp C. OBM bridge ramp C. Make sure this is set to coincident world. Okay, I click open. And by the way, I reference it from the 3D view. I reference it to the 3D view because it's best, it's the right way to do. Reference it in the 3D so that more or less it reflects to the 2D. Do not reference it in the 2D, it will naturally not show in the 3D. Okay, so this is how it looks like. So the model created from OpenBridge is basically looking like this. There. Let me just expand this further. There. Okay. So with the deck, okay, and then some of the piers and abutments, okay, piers, then some. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know some of the terminology. Okay, but basically referencing the same alignment coming from OpenRoads Designer. Okay, and if you further turn on the terrain, because we're only seeing, you know, the boundary. Okay, notice you cannot change anything because we are referencing it, but there's this option here to maybe override the symbology or the feature definition. So just set this to yes, and maybe turn on the triangles. Turn on the triangles by shifting it to on. And then there you go. So our model now will look like this. Although there's a lot to do in the corridor, especially on this part here, wherein you have to add in some abutments. There are many techniques in order for you to add in some of the abutments in OpenRoads, maybe using linear templates, okay, which you can learn once you are already being trained with OpenRoads design. So I do hope you can see, okay, the effect that happened there. Okay, now if you want to see the cross section, so probably I'll go and open view number 3. Okay, I'll open view number 3, then minimize it a little bit. Minimize it a little. So currently in view number 3, you're seeing the same model, but I would like this to be my cross-section view. I want to see the cross-section. Okay, so to do that, inside corridors, then you see dynamic cross-sections. So open cross-section view. Locate your corridor. So I will just probably, or alignment, this can also be done by locating the alignment. So I will just use the alignment so that I can also see not only the first corridor, but also the bridge. So I will click the main alignment, which is ramp C. Okay, probably offset it, make it negative 80. Negative 80 on the left, then 80 on the right side. Left click, and then chainage. I'll just start at chainage 00 or station check 00. Interval, I'll increase it to every 100 or every 50, up to you. Okay, and then left click to accept. And then I have view number 3 open. I want to view it in view number 3. I will click inside view number 3. Then I can now see. But currently, I'm not seeing anything. But once I scroll to the next station, I'm now starting to see the cross section. Okay, now let me fix it to this view by clicking View Properties, then Center on Current Offset. And by the way, this is, you can exaggerate it. You can exaggerate it, vertical exaggeration, but it's all up to what you want. Okay, so let me just forward this a bit again, and then so there. Okay, so it's scrolling through. But if I want to see maybe at the cross-section, cross-section of the bridge, I will right-click inside. You have to right-click and hold inside the view, the cross-section view. Look for location station via data point. Okay. Then select the plan view, this one, and then probably I'll start probably somewhere here. Okay, and then I can see here now. But I would like to scroll now to see the bridge part. See now? I can also see the cross section of my bridge, basically because it's being referenced in 3D. Okay, so once I scroll, oops, sorry, there, I now see the span. I hope my terminology is correct. There. So it's showing it relatively where in the plan, then also in 3D. Okay? If you want to see exactly where the pier is, wait, let me just make sure I activate my 2D, then I'm just updating my reference in the 2D so that I can see where the pier is. Okay, let me locate station via data point again. Then I will probably make sure I can see it on this location. So there. Are we okay? Okay. There's a question on how to create the template manually. Yes, you can. There is a way for you to do that by using the Create Template tool. It's a lot to explain in this session, but you can. Okay, you are not limited to what you have here. There are many tools for you to create it. So like create template, then you can start from scratch. Okay, either get it from the available components here, or maybe really start from scratch, meaning you create your own, like simple components and so on. Okay, you will learn this, okay, when you get to have the software and of course a training package with your license. Okay, now let's do a quick creation of sheets, because it's also important that you know how to create your sheets. Okay, we've skipped the part wherein you can apply SuperElevation, but basically you can do so by using the SuperElevation tool. And as I have said, you can do it, or you do it on a separate file, then assign it later on to your corridor to do the calculation. Although we skipped that part, okay, but we could have a more in-depth session for those who are interested, as SKC has probably would arrange with some of you, for those who are really keen and really want to know the power of OpenRoads in terms of road or corridor modeling, we can have a separate session for that. Now let's proceed to drawing production, because this is very important as well that you see how drawing production is done. But I will go straight to plan and profile sheets. I will skip the cross section, okay, because basically the step is the same. It's, I think, the most important, I mean, not really most important, but it's also better to discuss it using the plan and profile. Okay, so I'll open module 8. By the way, before I do that, save settings. If you want to come back to this and showing the same interface, okay, save settings. So I click open. I go to module 8, plan and profile. And then I want you guys to open plan sheets.tgn. Oh, where is it? This one. Okay, so this one. So I click open. So again, click yes if you see this screen. Now the drawing that you will open this time has the finished corridor already with assigned design standards, SuperElevation, all the settings. And then probably the next thing you need to do is just do the drawing production, okay? It could be that you will reference them one by one in one master model, as I have been mentioning in this slide here, okay? So if you're done with your corridor model, which references the geometry, okay, from where there's a SuperElevation file as well, reference the terrain, maybe the survey, then you have a master model that would probably be the repository of your final, okay, corridors, and maybe your drawing production, okay? If you see here, I have geometry, I have the terrain, okay? Then later on, we can attach the corridor model itself as well as the storm drainage model, okay? Although we don't have time to really discuss on the drainage and utilities tool, okay? So I want you guys now to shift to drawing production tab. The main civil tool, because there are tools here that are specific to CAD only. But the main tool for OpenRoads are these last 3 panels: annotations, name boundaries. No, only 2, sorry, only 2, because this is also CAD, okay, settings. So the main tool that you would use in order to do drawing production is the name boundary tool. Okay, so probably we will have an overtime, maybe 10-15 minutes, little, so just to make this session complete. Okay, so place name boundary is the command. So the name boundary is basically the extent of the sheet that you would like to show in your sheets. Okay, so first is, let's first do the plan, okay, meaning the 2D plan showing you the horizontal or vertical alignment, including the corridor. Okay. Now, because of the workspace that we are using, we already have some predefined, we call it drawing seed or maybe drawing template if you would still like to refer to or to use the template terminology. So let's use this drawing seed that contains a title block with both the plan and the profile together. Okay, so I click on this, which if you notice, once I click this one, it sets some of the settings already in here, including the scale. So look at the prompt, okay? You are asked now to identify path element, which is seen here as well. So to identify the path of your plan sheet, so select the geometry. Okay, in this case, let's just use this one. Route 97 extension. I will click on that. Okay, so once you click on that, you will see now your graphics looking like this. And in your place name boundary window, you will now see the name of that geometry, Route 97 extension. Okay, and let's probably name it as, yeah, I'll just name it, I'll just accept the default. But the most important thing is the name of the geometry appears here. Okay, let's lock it to start by clicking this, meaning let's start to the very start of the geometry, and then also lock it to the end. Okay, but probably since let's not lock it. Oh, sorry. Where? I lock it on. Okay, I lock it to there. Okay, then next thing, length. Did I click the correct length? Let me just check on my cheat sheet here. And don't take this one. Make sure you don't take this. Oops, wait, and how come there's something going on? Wait. Something is going on my background. I click this again. Okay. Oops. Wait. Anyway, just untick. Wait, something. Wait again. I press escape because something is hindering my clicking. Don't know what is it. But let me do it again. Place name boundary. And then go and make sure this is civil plan. Then A1 plan, profile plan. And select this, lock to start. Okay, and change lock to the end, but change this to 21,500. Okay, and other settings. Yeah, should be okay now. Then left click here, left click on your, because if you see here in the lower left, okay, it says there accept, reject to accept the path or the alignment that you have chosen. So just left click inside, do it again, okay, because the first one is just for you to activate the view. Then the second one is for you to really accept it. So notice that it shows you the preview of the boundary. Okay, now it follows in a very smooth curve because of the chord. If you change this to a lower value, it will be, this would be more rectangular. Okay, but let's just do it in some other session. And before you click again, just untick create drawing. Do not tick this because our intention is to put both the plan and the profile together. So untick this and then left click. And then left click again. There you go. So you now have this. Okay. Now, next step is for us to identify the profile. So open either profile view or I think 4, but I think view 8 is where it's set already automatically. Okay. So once this is already open, kindly launch again the same command, place name boundary, but this time click the civil profile. And then drawing seed, the same drawing seed, but this time set to profile. Okay, A1 plan profile. So more or less, it's the corresponding drawing seed of the plan that we use. Okay, and don't worry about all these settings. You will learn this It's just ready-made already for you so that the exercise will be faster. Okay. Now this time, kindly click Create Drawing. And our method is from Plan Group. You have to make sure that it's set to Plan Group so that it will generate a corresponding profile from the plan that was already previously created. Okay? Are we clear on that? And then some settings here have already been set because of our drawing seed. Okay? And then you might want to just set, probably modify vertical exaggeration. If you have some pipes also referenced in the profile, you may want to but this one is only significant to maybe, no. It's for cross-section settings. It's for cross-section settings. Okay, so I will now click inside my profile view, to accept everything. So I will left click here, and then all these rectangles you see are based on the plan boundaries previously created. So if I left click on this, okay, since the create drawing is on, I am now proceeding to create the sheets. Okay, but I have some settings here. I can modify. I may not modify because I already set it as default based on the workspace. Okay, so all the drawing or the title blocks are already set up in here, including the annotations that the plan would show. Oops, sorry, the plan, plan, what's the original setting? Plan annotation, okay? Then even in the profile annotation, then all these settings. Now in OpenRoads, we have a way for you to organize your sheets. Imagine these are like how many sheets? I think it's more than almost 20 something sheets. Okay. If you want to organize them properly, we have a sheet index that you can create so that every time you want to publish or maybe print some of the sheets according to a number or a set, you can take this to organize them properly into a sheet index. Okay, so once I have all those settings, I click OK. I will not change any of the other settings, so I'll let the software dictate it. I click it, then my sheets are now being created. If you look here closely below, okay, it's now creating it. Okay, so what will happen here is it will launch the sheet models containing the plan and the profile in one. We use an A1 type of paper based on our drawing seed, as you can see here. So let this process finish, and then we will see them all being created. So notice here, it's how many? 28 drawing models being annotated and generated. Okay, so we're now on 23rd, 4th. It's loading. Okay, we're done. The last sheet, then this is the plan, this is the profile. We went to the last sheet, okay, but basically if you want to examine all, if you look here below, there's this list. So our last sheet is plan 28 sheet, which is, oops, scroll up. By the way, this symbol is that one. If I want to go to the next sheet, I see this, okay? But basically, if you know how MicroStation works, so what happens here is this sheet model is actually referencing the drawing models of both the plan and then the profile. So if you want to further maybe customize some of the annotations or add in some more annotations, you have to go to, this is what? this is 26, right? Or 27. So I go to plan 27. This will show me the plan view. If I want it to be annotated per element, okay, you can do so. If I want to see its corresponding profile, go to profile plan 27. There is profile 27. Then this is it. This is it. Okay. Then this is it. Okay. And it's being merged together in one sheet model, which is this one. There you go. Okay. If you want to go back to the main model, I click. Then inside here, you will now scroll up and look for multi-model view. That, and then you go back. Now, if you want to update maybe the references, because you want the corridor to show up, okay? So, and maybe if you have other objects as well added, kindly just attach. I am doing it in my view number one. My view number one is the one active. I click, then attach. And inside this, I want to attach the finished corridor, which is corridor RT extension. Make sure it's coincident world open. This is the corridor. Okay, I want, incidentally, there's also a drawing or a file that contains the drainage network. I will attach the storm drainage DGN, although we did not really went to an exercise creating them, but some drainage network already created. Okay, so once we load this, go back to the sheet. Yeah, go back here. Then my sheet also reflects the corridor in my plan. Okay. Okay. Is this here? And if you would like to batch print it or maybe publish it to PDF all at the same time in your Explorer, let me just pin this. Specifically, sheet index, sorry, this one, sheet index. Did I scare you? Okay, so there, these are all the sheets created. Okay, there we go. And what are those sheets? This one. Currently, I'm on plan 2. If I want to see maybe plan 10 or sheet 10, double click, then there. Okay. And I think I already created some cross-section sheets as well. If it's available. No, this is coming from another file. That's why it's not here. But basically, there. Okay. If I want to convert them all at the same time to PDF, I have this open print organizer option here. And then just choose a PDF printer, click OK. And wait. Before I do that, I need to select this. I need to select this. Because if I select one, I'm only printing one sheet at a time. So I click this one. This is the name of the workspace where this index is located. I open print organizer, PDF, click OK. Then all my sheets will appear here. I only want to publish from 8/26 because that's the latest one I have up to the last one. Okay. It's this sheets here. Then I click print. Okay, there. And I will make sure I save it. This will save it in one PDF file. Let me just save it in my dataset folder. profile sheet. I will not change the name anymore. Selection. I click selection. Then open print file after creation. I click OK. Then this will actually show this one, giving me the progress as to how the printing is being done. Okay. So it will print it into, or it will publish it into one PDF file containing all the sheets with the plan and profile. Okay. Now let's just wait for this to finish so that I can basically show you how you can publish the final 3D model into LumenRT so that you can now do your visualization. So that's the last step. So if anyone, while we wait, any question, just type them in the chat box. Okay, if none, the printout is I mean the published to PDF is finished. So this is it. There. So this is one PDF file already I've opened, which coming from. But if you would like to see where it was saved, it's actually saved in my module 8 plan profile sheets. Then this is that file. This is in all the 28 sheets. Okay. Again, the way your sheet would look like or appear would depend on how you customize or set up your drawing seeds, specifically the sheet seed, okay, which can be further customized depending on your preference. And you will learn how to do it when we go to, or you are now using the software. Okay, we'll teach you how to do that. Okay, so that's how you publish your drawings to sheets, or create sheets and then publish it to PDF. Okay, so let me just close this. Now, one last step. I hope I know you're all hungry because I'm also feeling it. But let me just finalize this session by, I'll probably use the previous file I have where there is a bridge. What was that file again? Integration. The last file, I think I did not save settings, right? But let's try. Corridor ramp C EGN. Check. I'm just gonna do this quickly so that you know how to publish them. Oh, I did. I did save settings. Okay. Let me just disable. A quicker way of you doing your visualization, maybe just using some of the, let me activate the 3D view because it's important to activate the 3D view when you're doing your visualization. So once you activate the 3D view or 3D model, you will now see visualization mode. Okay, and in the visualization mode, you have already those built-in rendering tool to create your renders, your movies, your still image. Okay, although we don't have time to do that, but these are all built in here. Okay, now if you are just checking on your model, okay, want to see a 3D drive-through and then visually inspect it based on the modeling that you've done, we have a tool here called 3D drive-through. Okay, I'm in the corridors tab now, review, then we have the 3D drive-through. Okay, so if I click on 3D drive-through, this will ask for a 3D view. So I will click inside my view number 2, and then it's asking to select a center line of the road. So maybe I can select from my 3D view. If it's hard to select from here, you can also select from your 2D. model. Okay, so I will select from here. So I will select the element, the ramp C, Okay, then from there, I now my 3D view will now shift to the first part of that alignment that I have chosen, and then the 3D drive-through will pop out. Okay, and in here you can modify some camera settings like vertical view, offset, on the height as well, left or right, and so on. And then from there, let me just make it faster, 200 speeding. Okay, then click the play button, and then this will scroll through my model now. Okay, so this 3D drive-through is more like a visual inspection tool, allowing you to drive through the corridor model that you had created. Okay, and this can also be saved in an AVI, and then maybe when you're doing this, okay, try to turn on, turn off some of the objects that you don't need, okay, or maybe set it to transparent so that if you have some utilities already laid out, it can also be displayed in your drive-through, or see there's an erroneous part on the terrain and so on. So in that way, in this manner, you're able to visually inspect how your model looks like. Okay. Another way, if you're done with everything, you're pretty much confident that you are finished with your design, is by using LumenRT. Okay, I will just teach you how to publish it, but I'm not gonna teach you how to use LumenRT. Okay, so to publish it to LumenRT, again with the 3D view or 3D model being active, go back to visualization. And then you will see this LumenRT button. And by the way, before that, make sure you set your, let me shift to top view. Oops. Not top view. Maybe, let me just rotate it a little bit, okay? See how fast I can really scroll through my model. So fast that I clicked it too much. Okay, let me just zoom in again. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Okay, then make sure you enable a camera. Okay, so that once it's published to LumenRT, that camera would stay projected. Okay, so click on LumenRT, and then this will publish it to LumenRT. When you're installing OpenRoads Designer, make sure you enable that option to install LumenRT as well. If not, you won't be able to trigger in or launch in LumenRT when you click the LumenRT button. Okay, so yep. So it's now actually launching my LumenRT on my other screen, which is basically just dragging it to my current screen now. This one. So any questions? So I'm actually finished with the discussion. Okay, but basically it's a full integrated workflow as to let me just, okay. How come the material was not taken? Anyway, probably when there, this is the model. Because I think anyway, it's supposed to take in the material of the terrain. Okay, but basically this is how your model would look like. Okay, so with LumenRT, you'll be able to create nice visualization, a real-time visualization, whether blue sky, real time, meaning as you click, it's already rendering your scene and so on. So I'm not really gonna go through an extensive demo or exercise on this, but basically the workflow is when you're using OpenRoads is basically it caters to almost every aspect of your design. Okay, you'll also be able to publish them into an IFC format or iModel format so that it can be utilized in the next stage of the project, like construction, asset management, and so on. Okay, so that's all for me, Casey. I'm really sorry. Apologies for the overtime because we've got lots of things to cover today. But I do hope that you guys enjoyed the session and picked up something at least for the session. And it really is very intense discussion, basically. But if you would like to have another session specifically for your company or team, then let us know. Casey, thank you.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Bill. Been really useful for attendees. Okay, I think there's a question during the second half. I think someone's asking about the template creation. I think this is the corridor modeling part.
Yeah, I've actually answered this already.
Okay.
I mentioned that they can, of course, they can customize it. They can customize it.
Okay.
What I've shown is just the available one, but you can create your own.
Okay, Ken. I think the next one is it's about the slope transition. Say we have a 1:1 slope. Can it transit into 4:1?
Yeah, definitely. It's actually addressed by the template as well. Because if you see here, this slope here, this is actually what we call an end condition. But to modify them, if I may just look at the property, if you see here, you have some settings that will allow you to modify your target, okay, of the slope. Okay, if you're talking about the corridor itself, yes, you can. You just need to customize your end condition points. Okay, you see here, 1:4. You can change this value 33% or whatever is said.
So
Okay?
it's bounded by the boundary condition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it targets your existing ground, basically. Terminates to your existing ground.
All right. Then the next question is there a way to save the geometry file in a CAD format, I presume?
Geometry file. The DGN in itself is already a CAD file. Okay, you can open it in MicroStation, but it will lose the civil properties, the intelligence, the civil properties. But if you would like to save as DWG, you can do so as well. For the plan and profile, I think we have a tool that will allow you to save the sheets to this is not the file. This is not the file. The file is this one. What was it? Okay. But if your aim is to save it as a DWG, I think there's a utility that you have to do, because the principle or the way things are arranged in MicroStation or in OpenRoads, and then using MicroStation, it's a bit different. But then you can save them as a DWG. Okay, you can save them as a DWG. I think there's a way to import. Yeah, there is a tool that will allow you to do that. But basically, save as is enough for you to save them into CAD, or if you would like it to be specific to DWG, yes, yes. Sorry, I'm going to many ways, or exploring some many ways for you to do it. But basically, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, I think there's one more question. This person is asking, can they modify the setting up plan and alignment control plan in adaptation to their style?
Or alignment control plan or element annotation to our, yeah, of course you can. As I said, the way things are looking right now is basically because of your workspace. Okay, and as I said, the workspace can be customized according to your standard. Okay, if you would look closely here, every time you actually load in, you see here, load in different settings, okay, it populates your main DGN. But if you want to preserve it, okay, if you want to preserve it to, maybe I'll just show it to you where it's done. So like for instance, this one, annotations, annotation definitions, yes, definitely you can. If you would just like to, let's say, plan, if I would click on maybe, I think it's better if it's annotation group now. Wait. Okay, plan, linear 3D, survey. So these are the interface from where you can see what are those styles you're referencing. But you cannot modify it here. You cannot modify it here. If you notice, if I click one, okay, you are unable to really see some of the extended settings. That's basically because it's protected in the workspace. But if you would like to further customize it, you have to go to an option from where you open up the main configuration file of the annotation, okay, and then save it in your workspace. But basically, you can customize it, sir. It's an easy method. It's a one-time setup, which is very important. One-time setup only, and then everything will be available for you anytime you load the same workspace, or reference the same workspace as you uh, as you progress with your design. Okay, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one more question that just came in. They
Yep.
said this person said the demo in the section is start. Can it be done in the same file or different file? I think this one has got to do with the federated file.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a demo is in section survey. When we do the real job, it can all be done. Yeah, actually you can. You can. It's just that it's up to you. You'll have probably the problem later on. When you're dealing with a very large, project, okay, if you have a very large project and you put everything in one DGN, it's gonna be very hard for you to really manage it, especially if one team is, if probably you're a one-man team, then it's okay. But then the headache will come in later on when there are frequent changes. Maybe the survey and terrain, you're okay. But once you're in the corridor modeling, the alignment updates, right? It's gonna be very difficult to manage the objects. Okay, that's why we recommend really for you to do the federated approach, because it allows for you to manage your civil objects easily and facilitate more or less like a multi-user environment settings. Okay, but it's all up to you. If your mindset is still using the other software, then it's still okay. Okay, but I think the issue in that is that it will give you the headache later on. Because I'm also a user of that software. So if you notice when you're creating a file, you're loading the entire DWT file in the same DWG file. And then you're creating your terrain, you're creating your survey, terrain, corridor, your other edits in the same DWG. That's why it keeps on getting heavier and heavier, and it's hard to really manage it. Apart from the DWT or the template, which is very large already, then you're adding your DWG. Okay, we can work that way, but I think the headache later on will come in once you have so many edits. Okay, so I'm just in a way being realistic on what scenario that you can encounter later on. I hope that addresses the question.
Okay, thanks for sharing your experience, Melan. I think there's no more question coming in. So yeah, again, thank you to Melan for guiding our participants in this workshop, and I hope that they would benefit a lot from using OpenRoads in their future projects. So as a reminder to all participants, I see a lot of you are joining as on an anonymous basis. So if you are joining in such a way, you will not get the recording of this workshop. So I would appreciate if you can reach out to me via email. My email is in the chat, and then I'll send you the recording when it has been processed. So if you have any other questions which you would want us to help you with, please do reach me via my email, and then I'll work with Melan with your queries. So I guess, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you all again for staying on past the lunchtime, and yeah, I hope to see you again in our next event, hopefully another workshop or webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoy your lunch.
Yeah.
Thank you, PC.
Thanks, Melan.